Shalom, brothers and sisters. All praises to the Most High if you're watching this video. Today in American society is celebrated a feast day, a day of feasting and what they call giving thanks, or Thanksgiving Day, which is actually a celebration of the slaughter of Indians, a mass murder of the Most High's chosen people, but actually really goes somewhat deeper when you really understand the nations of people who took part in the very first so-called Thanksgiving. The real truth about Thanksgiving goes a little bit more deep. That's what I want to go into today. On my channel, I've been consistently putting videos that recognize and bring the awareness of a people that are among us, that look like us. They're indigenous people who are among the 12 tribes of Israel, misleading our people in many different directions. And I've said this in previous videos that since the so-called white man or the biblical Edomites have came to the Western Hemisphere, this nation of people has assisted them in many different aspects. So I want to go into a little bit of the history and take a look at what it is that some of the sleep of our people, the sleep Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans are celebrating today when they celebrate Thanksgiving. So in Google, I typed in the search engine, when was the first Thanksgiving? In which this came up, and it reads 1621. The English colonists we call Pilgrims celebrated days of Thanksgiving as part of their religion. But these were days of prayer, not days of feasting. Our national holiday really stems from the feast held in the autumn of 1621 by the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag to celebrate the colony's first successful harvest. So there's two nations of people mentioned here in the first Thanksgiving. One, an indigenous people called the Wampanoag, and the Pilgrims. I want to take a little look at the Wampanoag people, because when Thanksgiving is mentioned or an image of Thanksgiving is presented, such as these, you continually see what I would call a traditional Native American. This is the image that you'll see as a traditional so-called Indian. But we're going to take a closer look at these Wampanoags and what they really look like and what they look like today. This is a video on YouTube that I found that's called "We Still Live Here: Black Indians of Wampanoag and African Heritage." One thing as we come into the knowledge and our knowledge is increasing, I understand that this African word is consistently used synonymously with black. Just because you're black or negroid in complexion and your stock is of a negroid stock, they're giving you this African label. But here it's called the Black Indians of Wampanoag and African Heritage. I want to take a little look at this.
The question is, you're an Indian? Well, yes. But you're black? Yes. But you're an Indian? Yes. But, so, how much Indian blood do you have?
There are people who even ask me, are you Indian? You don't look like the Indians that I know. Well, okay, fine. I don't look like your stereotypical Indian that's riding on a horse with a bonnet in the plains, and I'm not from that anyway.
I just wanted to recognize that he knows for a fact that he's not from what is known as the traditional Indians that he says is the Indian on a horse in a plain. He knows for certain that he's of a different stock, of a different nation of people. So he says he's not from that anyway. And also he mentions that even I am confused, asked if he's Indian, being even that he's even of a lighter stock of people. He's even continually questioned about his heritage.
Yes, I have many different cultures that are in my blood, but I was raised with the culture and values that come from here.
Our tribe is a family. We're all related, and that's part of what it is to be a tribe.
To be all related.
Ancestral tie to this place.
Growing up in the inner city, I was either Spanish or I was African American. But my heart and the way I was taught was Wampanoag. This is who you are.
Yeah, they don't even think I'm Native American. They just think I'm white sometimes or Spanish or something like that.
They don't really think of like us being like Native Americans.
Nowadays, like nobody's pure anything really. You can't really find a lot of people are mixed, and I am too. So I'm with my Native American grandmother more than my African grandmother. So I believe that I'm Native American no matter what.
Sometimes they would ask me what I am, and they would answer before I could, and it's like, don't judge people.
A lot of the reflection in this world that I receive is that the Wampanoag people don't exist. For the most part, people say that because they've never known a Wampanoag person. They probably never even heard the word Wampanoag. They probably don't even know, even though they were taught about the Pilgrims and the Indians in school, that we were the nation that, helped the Pilgrims through that first winter. We have intermarried and we have...
I want to note that she said that in a joking manner, even though as we as the Negro from the slave trade and the indigenous of America should absolutely understand that that is not a joking matter. There's nothing to be taken lightly, that these people were the people that helped the Pilgrims survive here. And she says it in a joking manner, and is by far anything to be joking, or is it anything laughable? But I want to repeat that one more time. And also I wanted to note that they don't like to be confused with any other nation of people. Obviously, they don't like to be called Spanish or so-called African American. They take pride in their indigenous roots. They even take pride in the fact that they're the Wampanoags who helped the so-called white man or the Pilgrims. I want to repeat that one a second and just really understand that.
In school, that we were the nation that, helped the Pilgrims through that first winter. We have...
So they helped the Pilgrims through the first winter, and now look where we have gotten today.
Intermarried, and we have mixed, and that doesn't negate anything that has been passed on to us as Wampanoag people.
It was Chappaquiddick.
This is my family tree. Goes from my grandfather, then it just breaks it all down.
Look at her.
From the bottom to Chappaquiddick. Goes on the 1610.
So you had a family tree that dates all the way back to 1610. And as I said, as you've seen, a couple of them was mistaken for Spanish and African American. They definitely could pass for any of the 12 tribes of Israel.
The sachem of Nantucket in the 1640s on into the 1700s.
Tim's son is named that. Tim's it's a nice name. I'm happy to see it there. I come from a black man who only had one name. His name was Peter. He was not a slave. He was a sea captain who had his own boat and was in the whaling industry. He married a native woman in Martha's Vineyard.
So he admitted to being the descendant of a black man whose first name they took on as their last name, which shows several different things. Shows that they wasn't conquered and overcame by the oppressor or the conqueror of our people, because they didn't even have the names of the oppressor as we do today throughout the tribes of Israel. And also note his complexion. So you can't really tell by the color. Even though his father was a black man, you could never tell that just by looking at a man. And his father wasn't a slave, as you noted.
However many greats grandmother and that whole family line after them bears his single name as their last name. We as a people did stand behind freedmen and escaped slaves after the Dred Scott decision and put out a proclamation to let people know that they could find a safe refuge amongst our people.
Crispus Attucks, who was of Nauset Wampanoag lineage, was one of the original people killed in the Boston Massacre.
Wampanoag.
Black Wampanoag.
The Mashpee Wampanoag in the late 17th and 18th centuries were known for being a kind of a haven for people of color of all different backgrounds. They were welcoming of outsiders because their definition of Indianness didn't have to do with color. It had to do with whether you were really a member of the community or not. So children who had mixed ancestry parents were fully welcomed into these communities. And this was something that was hard for whites to understand, that somebody...
Okay, first, if you was to come from the Wampanoags, there would actually have to be some kind of remorseful feeling or regret for feeding and teaching these people how to sustain themselves here in the America in the Western Hemisphere, and then afterwards to see the slavery and the oppression and the slaughtering of the other Indian tribes among them, including many of themselves dying from pestilence and diseases, there would have to be some kind of a regret on their part. So they definitely, as you said, Crispus Attucks was a Wampanoag who was an abolitionist, or he was an advocate for the freedmen. But there definitely was, you would think if I was from them, there would be some kind of regret or remorse for doing the things that they've done. And also they mentioned that they accept all colors and they have been intermingled with other people, and that the white man could never comprehend that just because they're of different complexions and different colors, including Negro, that they could be indigenous. They have this condition in their brain to just categorize a Native American as being what we know as the traditional Indian, and they can't even wrap their minds around